Hello, everybody, and welcome to our show. We've been off for a couple of weeks, so welcome back to those people who are tuning in again. So both myself and my partner in crime, Hussein, we're traveling. So apologies for not being here for you, but we are back now. So
Yeah.
welcome, Hussein. Good to see you again.
You too. So we were missing you on our show.
Oh, yeah. Did you go live without me last week?
No, I didn't.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
last week I could have, but I thought it,
Yeah.
it will be better that if we do it together. So I just thought of waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so which topic should we dive into first tonight?
So how about knowing your opinion on this Trump Gaza saga? What's your take
Uh,
on that?
oh my God.
Yeah.
He says sarcastically.
Yeah.
Uh, Trump Trump is just such a buffoon.
Mm-hmm.
As all the comedic pundits have been pointing out, this guy turned uh, Atlantic City with his the Trump casino, which he bankrupted. He turned
Mm-hmm.
Atlantic City into a worse version of Atlantic City. So that the one of the comedians was like, is he going to turn Gaza into like Atlantic City and make it a worse version?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I don't know if you saw the clip. Like when he made that announcement, even his chief of staff was like, "Huh?" So yeah,
So,
I
if we go by this Gaza plan for converting that into a Riviera, even that would be a
I
disaster. That's what you think?
oh well, I mean everything Trump touches is a disaster. I mean the guy
Okay.
bankrupted a casino. How
Hmm.
do you bankrupt the casino? People are giving you money. I mean, how do you bankrupt that? So,
By being
uh,
so honest
yeah. Oh, that's
in a
Trump, all
casino.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
he's so
So,
honest.
yeah,
So,
if a casino must go bankrupt, that means you are too honest in a casino.
I just Trump is just such a blustering buffoon
Hmm.
that uh, how could this even be theoretically workable? I mean, there are so many moving parts. There's so much opposition. Like it's just this guy's just used to just spouting the most abject nonsense, and then,
Hmm.
people, because it was him saying it, "Oh, we must jump and make it happen." But,
Hmm.
it's tantamount to ethnic cleansing, of moving the Palestinians out. He's, "Oh, well, someone will take them." I'm like this nebulous someone will take them.
Hmm.
It's just a
But
ridiculous plan.
yeah, but don't you think that when we call Trump as a crazy person and by seeing all these kind of uh, what do you say, um, undue claims and fancy proclamations like this, it was his idea that really come up as this Abraham Accords, which we see now as something which is getting more attention. Like even the Middle East is now slowly transforming into a peace-loving people with regards to this terrorism and the relation with the Jews, the Israel, and countering this anti-Semitism, which is ingrained among the Middle Eastern population, that is Islamic or Muslim communities, even by controlling their textbooks and even modifying that. So, in that way, don't you think that Trump had a point in making this Abraham Accords?
I mean, I understand the underlying motivation
Mm,
to want to relocate, for lack of a better term,
mhm,
relocate the existing population for the purposes of reconstruction.
mhm,
Because the extent of the damage is so severe, the infrastructure
yeah,
is virtually gone.
mm,
How do you rebuild with a population in place? Like it just is going to add to the complexity. So, from a purely, what's the word I want? From a purely, if he's coming, and he's not, but if he's coming from a purely good place of
mhm,
wanting to rebuild the infrastructure for the Palestinians, which we know he's not, then
mhm,
I can see a temporary relocation of the population to facilitate the amount of work that needs to take place, like all of the infra, like, moving the rubble out of the way, bulldozing like the
mm,
the the wreckage, laying, cutting trenches to lay pipe and put in wiring and stuff like that. That's
Right.
all much easier in a greenfield site,
Hmm.
than the current, destruction that sits above it. So I
Yep.
can understand the desire to want to do it that way, but where do you put these people? What guarantees do they have that they'll ever be allowed to come back? Like in 1948,
Mm.
the Palestinians were denied the right of return by Israel. So I'm sure, and every Palestinian hears Trump say this,
Yeah.
they're thinking the
But
Nakba. They're thinking that another catastrophe that yes, we'll go voluntarily, or some of us may have to be dragged, but those of us, what guarantees do we have, if any, that we'll ever be allowed to come back? And I think they have a very legitimate concern that they will
so
not be allowed to return.
but when Trump said this, and when the counter arguments were pouring in, don't you see a hypocrisy getting exposed in this course? That is, until now, it was always said that the Palestinians are refugees living in a open air prison, and all these were the arguments just before. Even we could hear that even before October 7th. But when now Trump said this, now what we are hearing is that we were living in a beautiful place. Gaza was beautiful. Even they were telling that even before October 7th, Gaza was so beautiful. Now they are completely agreeing to that. So what does that mean? So either it has to be a open air prison which is unlivable, and they were literally suffering from a lot of things, and somehow this October 7th happened without any of their knowledge. They just let us forget about Hamas, what they did, the hostages and other things, because that's how the world is moving on with regards to this problem. And now we are completely shifting towards what Trump said. So isn't that literally exposing that hypocrisy, what they were making as a claim as a refugee? So
Well,
don't you, what do you think on that?
they were saying it was a beautiful place before it's been bombed to
Yeah,
hell and back over the last year, right? So
yeah.
yes, there was destruction in Gaza before, but it's even worse now. I mean, their infrastructure is
No, no,
virtually
no, no,
gone.
no, no. They,
So
they're
you could
telling that
say
it was
be
a heaven. They were not saying that there was a little destruction. No, that's not their claim. They are clearly saying that it was a heaven. That's
okay.
their
Well,
word.
everybody's ties to the land are strong, right? Like, your your ties to your land are stronger than rationality, right? So think think back to, in the Bible itself. And
Hmm.
this is a historical fact. So while the Bible is preciously short on historical facts, this one is actually true. The deportation of the people of the northern kingdom of Israel in the 700s by the Assyrians. And then what do the Assyrians do? They uproot the people from Israel and they move them to another part of the empire, and they uproot people from that part of the empire and they put them in Israel, which is also part of the in the Second Temple era, with the priest Ezra and the prohibitions against intermingling with like what are they called? The Samaritans. So to what extent were the Samaritans the Israelite population that wasn't deported, and to what extent are they descendants of that transplanted people that were brought in and then maybe intermarried and intermingled, which is why the returning Jews from Babylon were really kind of paranoid about keeping separate, because of these tainted Samaritans, whether they were Israelites or whether they were transportees from other places. But now you do that, and the Persians did this too, and there's been papers on this, that transplanting populations is a very effective way of breaking, one, not only their ties to the land, but two, their resistance, right? Because if you're fighting for your land, you've got a pretty big stake in the game. But if you are a deportee from somewhere else, and yes, you're farming this land, it doesn't necessarily mean as much to you as the land you grew up on. Was it like Einstein says, like,
So
nationalism is like the measles of humanity, right? Like this attachment to these artificial constructs, which it overrides common sense, it overrides rationality. So yeah,
mm,
there some rhetoric there when they said, "Oh, this is beautiful, this is heaven," of course, but this is their land, and they have a tie
mm.
to their land.
So, so are you saying that Israelis, they were settler colonialists. Is that your argument is? Are you ignoring the fact that Israel was, or the Jews who were returning, they had a reason for
There were
the
always Palestinian Jews, though. There were always
they were returning
Palestinian
for,
Jews there.
yeah, they were returning for a reason, and they were purchasing the lands from the local Arabs, and all the Jews who were present over there were helping the returning Jews. So just like the Gazans have their right to their ancestral land, don't the Jews have their
Yeah,
own
but the
rights?
Palestinians had been living there
Mm-hmm.
nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews that were coming back from Europe were in a sense, um, colonial is probably the wrong word, or colonizers. Like, they are coming back to their ancestral homeland. But, and I can't remember who said it. Um, they basically said that the Palestinians are the ones paying the price for European anti-Semitism. So because white people wanted to assuage their guilt for 2,000 years of anti-Semitism, they basically brushed aside the Palestinians and let the returning Israelis just have their way, or the Zionist Israelis have their way. Now there is some truth in that. Like, it's not black or white. There's shades of gray here. But yeah, there is a sense that those coming back to Israel. And Christopher Hitchens makes this very same point that, a Jew who lives in Brooklyn has as much right to the land in Israel, then shouldn't the Palestinian who's always lived in Palestine have the same right to his land? So, I mean, yeah, this is not a binary discussion. I mean, there are so many contextual subtleties here.
Obviously,
Um,
there are a lot of intriguing, contextual, time-related aspects which we have to consider. But why that kind of a privilege is not given to the Jews? That's what I'm asking. Like when you mention about
Okay,
the rights to
so
the ancestral
okay,
land,
so
don't the Jews
you're
have that?
Indian. Okay,
Hmm.
so you're Indian. So there was the Aryan invasion of India that basically pushed the Dravidians, right? The Dravidians are the southern. So what if the southern Dravidians just went, right? We're taking back all the land that the Aryans took back. Would you just sit back and be okay with it? Because that was their ancestral land 2,000 years ago. Should the Dravidians just take back all of what was India?
If there
Is
was
that
a
your argument?
reason for, no, there you are ignoring a fact that the Jews were living peacefully. If they were living peacefully in the places where they had already settled, would there be a project called Zionism,
Probably not.
a Dravidianism? That won't
Yeah.
happen. Now we are speaking about this just because we happen to see the pogroms and the persecutions that Jews faced, and in that wake we are discussing about the other things which happened. So I don't think there's a valid reason to ask that question. If Dravidians fight back, no. If there is a reason for the Dravidians to fight back, obviously we'll have to stand with them. But there's no reason for that. But the Jews had a reason. That's the problem that we are discussing on this. They had a
Okay.
problem. They were facing extremism. They were facing
Okay.
anti-Semitism.
So why should the Palestinians have to pay the price for
They
European
didn't pay any
anti-Semitism?
price.
Yes, they
They they
the
they're
the
not
oh,
paying the price.
the refugees who've been displaced for 60, 70 years haven't paid a
So
price
okay, if I agree that Palestinians are paying the price, from when on they started paying the price?
from 48 when they were
Why?
displaced in the Nakba. Because there
Who?
was a cabinet level decision by the Israeli government to not
That
only
that's a
deny the
that's
right of
a
return, but to
that's a
increase the
misconception.
expulsions. No, it's
I would
not.
disagree there. Like always, it is always mentioned that the Nakba, like it's a it's something planned. It's a planned evacuation or a genocide or ethnic cleansing kind of thing. That's what we always mention about, or the idea which is promoted when we mention about this Nakba. There, I would disagree, because if it was a planned attack over this the Palestinian Arabs which who were present over there, we need evidence for that. We don't have an evidence, and also
Don't have evidence for what?
we have evidence which clearly mentions about the calls by the Arab leaders to lynch and murder the Jews at the same time. So it was a mutual fight, and they were displacing from each other. And at the same time, what we saw is that some of the Arabs, they remained with the Jews, and now the population of the Jews or the Muslims who live in Israel, who remained with the Jews during that Nakba period, they have increased and they are now almost 20%. So if it was a ethnic cleansing or if it was a genocide, how did that happen? And my during my Israel visit, I could visit a family who were living in Israel, who came to Israel during this Nakba period, their forefathers. Now they are a part of Israel and they live peacefully. And they were literally crying over the situations which is happening in Gaza. And they were literally calling out Hamas, why they did this. They spoiled all the peace, they spoiled all the coexistence, and they made our lives too miserable, like, because it is shattering the trust between the people. Because the Jews who were living close to this southern part of the Israel, who wait at the borders, who take the Palestinian Gazan citizens from Gaza to Israeli hospitals, give them chemotherapy or dialysis, and they were doing all such supporting works. And even they used to come and work in Israeli settle their housing residential pockets, and even in other companies they were earning. Everything was done, but what they did was they were doing insider job. They were giving out information. They were even helping the terrorists to unlock the gates. I have personally visited to the kibbutz, where the kibbutz called Niros, where this person who was living in the kibbutz over there, he clearly mentioned about at what time the gate opens, because it was controlled by a electronic device by a phone call. So that's how they gain entry into this kibbutz, and they could murder and take hostages and even loot that kibbutz. And it's not just about one kibbutz, many kibbutzes like that. So this is how it happened. So what shattered here, or what wounded the people of Israel, is not just the attack or the terrorism that happened over there. It's the trust which got shattered. That's the area where people are suffering the most, because you can repair the gates, you can repair the borders or the fences and even your walls and other things, but it's very difficult to rebuild the trust. That's what we
Yeah,
see
of
here as a
course.
biggest problem. So this is the kind of issue which we fail to understand, or which we fail to address in this point of time. And when we speak to people who remained in Israel, when without getting into the in the Nakba and going to Gaza or West Bank and living there and fighting an eternal refugeehood and and doing all these things. See, 1948 there was a partition plan which Israel accepted, and the Arab side rejected it outrightly. And it's not just once or twice; it happened routinely. And even now, what's the call that they are raising? East from river to sea, Palestine will be free. Where's the two state in it? When you say that there is river to sea, Palestine will be free, it's just one state. There's no two state in that. So uh, on one side you say that we are for peace and we want two state, and the next moment you are voicing this slogan. It's not it's not the right way. That
Well,
is
it's
a
not it's
hypocrisy.
not everybody. It's not everybody in Israel. It's not everybody
Anyway,
in
Hamas is
Palestine, right?
doing that.
We have
Hamas
we
is
have
representing
extremists,
Gaza.
but we
No,
have extremists on both sides.
Hamas is representing the
Yeah,
Gazans.
and when were they
So they are
elected?
the official
The
things.
majority of the population of Gaza was not born when Hamas was elected.
Then
And
that's the
as we
point. Then that's the point what Trump wants to make. That is, if it's not just about an engineering problem where you cannot rebuild a place when the people are living there. That's not the reality there. So what I understood is, if you have a problem and you identify the problem as ideology, and that ideology is being promoted by a group of terrorists which is existing there, then in order to rebuild that place, it's not the engineering work that matters. It's the destruction of the deadly ideology, which requires removal of that terrorist force, that is Hamas. So that's the most required point here, which we are failing
Okay.
to
And do
understand
you
and
think
address.
Trump forcibly removing the Palestinians is going to help that
No,
ideology or
I
further
I don't
inflame it?
agree. I don't agree with forcibly removing them, but still, we have to find out a way out. Like, this is being continued for the past many multiple decades, and we cannot let it go like that. Especially even when there are peace talks which were going on. And if when you look at the October 7th attack, it was almost at the outset of a peace treaty between Israel and Saudi Arabia, which was yet to happen. This October 7th occurred. And now you look at it, how and where it is now. So this is giving a very wrong message to the whole of the world, because if you want peace and if you are looking at coexistence, there has to be a sort of rearrangement and some sort of agreements at some points. Because especially when I come from a country like India, where we had this issue like the partition and two states and three states, we have gone through that. So we live in the present and we solve the problems in the present. It's not like we always go back and dig the history and we take out things and always keep on saying that, and we are not claiming the victimhood always. So we have to end this. And the Arab world has come up, at least the UAE has come up, Jordan has come up. They have a, I'm not saying that they have come up in a strong way or a manner. No, that's not what I'm saying. But at least they have made a disagreement, which is making the Middle East to rethink. Especially the countries like Saudi Arabia will be forced to come up with a plan, because if they are rejecting the Trump's plan, they will have to come with an alternative. Without an alternative, you cannot just reject something. So this is something which Trump made, which forces the Middle East to hunt for alternative solutions. Other than that, I don't think that's what exactly that Trump is going to do or make, because that's not practically possible.
True, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I just like as you say, like, the surrounding Arab countries appear to be maturing and putting aside the condoning of terrorism, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
However, we still have Netanyahu to deal with. As you saw when he was in the US a week or two ago, he
Mhm.
gave Trump like a gold-plated pager, as a token of blowing up innocent people. This
Yeah.
is this is how inhumane
Innocent
Netanyahu is. That
people.
he
Hezbollah was
the
not
the, in-
innocent.
the innocents who got killed, the bystanders who
They were
got
not innocent.
killed.
Innocent.
There were
See,
no innocent, but there were no
y-
innocents who got killed
collateral
in the black.
damage, you have to look at it that way itself. Collateral damage is collateral damage. So their prime target, we have to look at it that way. Like, why the innocents died? How come the pagers were in the hands of children, which was supposed to be with the terrorists? How come that
Okay,
came at
so to
that?
use your term collateral damage,
Yeah.
Netanyahu was still mocking the collateral damage by giving Trump that gold-plated lighter. That shows you what an
No,
inhuman little fucking prick he is. He
I
doesn't give a
don't think
fuck
that
about
way.
the innocents that
I
got
don't
killed.
think
He's
that way.
making light of. Oh, I
I
do.
don't think that
I
way.
I totally think Netanyahu's mocking the innocents. Netanyahu's a
We
prick.
have
Even
enough reasons
the,
to.
Is- the Israelis hate Netanyahu.
We have enough good reasons to criticize Netanyahu. Not this pager issue. I won't take that, because uh, just imagine if they were having a free run, the Hezbollah, what would have happened? Because I went to this place, that is the Majd al Shams. That's the place where the 12 Druze kids got killed. It's a place. So you look at it. So you were mentioning about the attack that was initiated by the blowing of that pagers. Almost, I don't remember the exact number, maybe thousands it was. And how many non-terrorists got killed in that, the ratio. Look at that. So their prime target was the terrorists, and there was a collateral damage. That's one situation. And now you go to this Majid al Shams, where the 12 kids were playing, and the rocket was fired directly onto them, and it hit a kid directly, and that kid was disappeared in a way that on the first and second day, they were not able to identify, or they were not even able to realize that it was 12 kids. So the initial reports were 11 kids got killed. So another kid who was there and got killed, and was always identified as they were sisters and brother. So that's I think the brother was missing. So they came up with DNA kits, and they were trying to identify the remnants, and they could find that this kid was totally, what do you call,
Annihilated.
pulverized. Yeah, completely gone into thin air. So that's what happened. So there was no military outpost or any other any items which could be targeted other than these kids. And if you go to that place, you can see that it's just a 5 kilometers displacement that you can visibly see. You can just zoom on your camera and you can point out that place. That so close. That's the place, and it's a high place from where the rockets could be landed so easily, and this landed on this playing ground and 12 kids got killed. Who talked about that? Where's the outcry of killing the innocents? Where's the outcry of killing the civilians?
There
So
were
here
some.
the target is
It wasn't
clearly
international, but there were people calling it out.
no. We have to compare it with the magnitude of the outcries which we see when the collaterals get killed and when the civilians get killed as prime target. They are not collaterals. So that's the kind of difference and hypocrisy what we see here. So we cannot find a moral comparison here between both these. So killing or annihilating terrorism, annihilating terrorists, this has to be dealt in a specific manner where we have to limit the collateral damage. That's the prime importance. So you won't be able to find a war or any kind of a conflict where the number of the civilians getting killed or the collateral damage which is occurring, and with there won't be such a war happening without a collateral damage. So the only thing is how much we can limit it. And I think in this point, Israel is highly successful in limiting the collateral damage. That's what
Yeah,
I
we
would say.
can limit the collateral damage, but you don't have to turn around and
Absolutely.
then mock. You don't have to mock the innocents that were killed by giving the
You cannot
president a
find that as a
gold-plated
mockery
pager.
because
Oh, I
it's
do.
not
I
killing
totally see it as a
thousand,
mockery. So
killing a thousand
what
terrorism.
was the point of Netanyahu giving him that golden pager then, if it wasn't as in jest? That they
It's
were
not.
fucking laughing. They were fucking laughing when Netanyahu gave it to him. He's fucking making light of killing innocent people. Holy shit, I'm getting all red. This just pisses me off. Like Netanyahu is just such a fucking
Okay,
prick. He is a fucking prick. I hate the guy. The Israelis hate the
you have
fucking
turned
guy.
red now.
Yes, I can see it in my camera.
Okay,
I hate
cool down.
Netanyahu. He is just such a fucking prick. Even
We
even
have enough reasons to criticize
The
Netanyahu
Israelis know he's got to
other
go.
than this.
To be any sort of
Yeah.
peace possible, Netanyahu has to go. He
Okay.
cannot be there.
So I would say that there was instances where Netanyahu was not there, and there were peace process and initiatives already in place, and the Arab side rejected it. So I don't think that even if there comes a peace option next time, and Netanyahu was not there, do you think that Arabs will take that? The
Well,
chances are better now,
I
but it's
I
not
think
still
yes.
100%.
It's definitely better. As you said,
Yeah,
the
it's
UAE,
better.
Jordan, they're coming on side.
Yeah, it's better.
I think the majority of the Palestinians are fed up
Mm,
with the nonsense and the incessant terrorism and the continuous um
mm.
displacement of their lives, and like just living in peace. So I think, we did the peace talk a few months ago with Amir and with
Mhm.
the Palestinian Economist. You know, there is there is common ground on both sides, that both sides want peace. So, it's just, can we get rid of as we pointed out in that talk,
If
we need to get the religious extremists off the board, because they're the ones that, on both sides, but the fundamentalist Jews, and Hamas and their ilk, they're the ones that keep messing everything up. If we can let saner heads prevail and get religion off the board, then peace is possible, or at least you
I
open
would,
up a discussion.
yeah, I would give a litmus test onto this. If anyone speaks about a peace which can be showered upon this Middle Eastern region, just ask them, do you support the slogan "River to Sea, Palestine will be free"?
No, of course I don't.
It's
And then
just a slogan, and if they
what are
are
the
agreeing to
comedians
that,
pointed out?
if
Like
they
in
are agreeing to that,
Trump's
that
new,
means if they are agreeing to that, that means there's no peace. So if you
yeah,
are for peace, you have to delete this slogan first. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So what about the
you cannot go
what
with.
about what about the extremist Israelis in Netanyahu's cabinet who are calling for one Israel from the river to the sea? Do we get rid of them too?
See,
No,
if you
answer the
are,
question. Do we get rid
if
of
you are,
them too?
that's
Yes or no?
of
Okay.
course, because you have to look at the majority who are calling this. You will find extremist Jews even in Israel, but look at the majority, what they are saying, what they are standing for. So, what are we comparing with? We are comparing the moral grounds. Okay, so what's the moral ground of a nation which follows a democratic way of taking things, which is accountable to the international community? And what is the moral background or the moral ground of a of a group of people who completely face covered, not even able to show their face on the camera, and they just what do you say, uh, come up with their guns and all such things even during this hostage exchange. What is the purpose of that? And they are not even, the world is not even able to force them to free the hostages on in one go. What's the world doing? That's what I'm surprised to see this. So you are talking about humanity, and you are talking about lives, and what about the lives of the hostages? And if there was no hostage, and if there was no October 7th, would this war happen? That's what I'm asking. So
Would
how can
would
we
is
how
would
come
Israel
we
ever have been
so
called to account for its legions of abuses of the Palestinian people without October 7th? And even I've called this
until
out, other people, even Jewish secular organizations have called out that Hamas's motivation for October 7th was they knew Israel would overreact and it would finally make the world wake up to see that Israel, the way Israel is overreacting in Palestine, like that it's it's like the big brother, like, swatting around the little brother sort of thing.
so they knew that
Yes,
they will
yes, I don't
be completely
that
distracted.
yeah, because they knew that
then
Israel would
then what's the
overreact.
reason for calling for peace, and what's the reason for lamenting over the destruction and all these things? There's no
Can
point
we
in
not
that.
can we not be humanists and lament the
You
suffering of
expect
people?
something and you do something and you get it exactly what you yearn for, and
Yeah,
what's the point in crying
but
for that?
Hamas also got the world to, I wouldn't say turn its back on Israel. That would be the wrong way of phrasing it, but they've stopped giving Israel a pass. Like, with the Holocaust, we can't say anything. People
I
were
think
were
this is
people were very
oversimplification of this a
No, it's
complex
not.
system,
It's not. It's
complex
not because
thing. Yeah, this is oversimplification.
multiple Israeli politicians have pointed out again and again and again and again, Israel plays the Holocaust card to shut down deliberately any criticism of the state of Israel and its policies. So
So
by Israel doing this,
so
they've
you
negated that card. They
mhm. So
cannot
you
play that
complete.
card anymore.
So from what time you believe that Israel started playing this Holocaust card?
From the beginning.
Year could be like something around
Well, if we go back to
1917,
well, so we go back to 48 then with the Arab-Israeli
just
war, because
48
that's,
or before that.
I'm sure before that it was being used as well.
Okay, so
There
it's
was
a
in
so Holocaust was just used as a card, and there was no the magnitude of that issue was not something which Israel
Do you
claims.
know
Is that
there
you
was an
say?
Israeli rabbi who called for the genocide of the Palestinian people? Does that and within 30 years of the actual
Hmm.
Holocaust, an Israeli
Hmm.
rabbi called for the genocide of the Palestinians. Does that not strike you as
Absolutely,
fucking
that's bad.
absurd?
No justification on that.
Yeah,
So among the millions of Israelis, you could find one rabbi or maybe thousand rabbis calling this. And if you take thousands or millions of Arabs, how many Arab states are yearning for annihilation of a Jewish state?
I couldn't tell you how many of them.
I'm not speaking on individuals. I'm speaking on Arab countries. All these
Well,
six, seven
as
Arab
you've
countries.
mentioned, they've backtracked and they're at the peace table
When
now,
did they
so we can
backtrack? When did they backtrack?
recently.
Very recently.
So
So at the beginning, it was not just
and
a
so that
Holocaust card.
and that came out of the Hamas attack, didn't it? That would they have come to the
Why?
table if Hamas had not attacked?
So what was the reason for Hamas formation? Because the organization PLO, which was before that, they were exactly what Hamas was, and finally, when Yasser Arafat was slowly transforming into a peace-loving person, where he started to shed his extremist ideals and he started going in a manner that he even transformed, self-transformed. At that point, accusing him of going back and accusing him of losing the vigor of the Arab cause. That's the reason why Hamas came up. So what Hamas did was to replace or to just replicate what the PLO did when it had that extremist outlook. That's what Hamas is doing. There's no change in it. It's just a change in name that's happened.
Okay,
So
but
what they are
we
doing is
saw
exactly the same thing.
in the talk we had with Amir and the Palestinian economists that a vast majority of the Palestinian people are fed up with Hamas. They're sick and tired of the
Obviously,
terrorism and the uncertainty. So there has been a sea change in the people themselves are now speaking out. You know, maybe they were people themselves are fed up with Hamas. I think the world stage is fed up with Hamas. The only person who likes Hamas is Netanyahu, because for him, it's a convenient distraction from his domestic problems, which every Israeli journalist points out about 5 times a day that Netanyahu doesn't want Hamas to go away because he's a convenient foil for them. He's the Hamas is the
these
sacrificial lamb for Netanyahu.
these are
If he gets
some
rid of Net if
I
Netanyahu
don't
gets rid of Hamas, then all of a sudden
no
everybody's focusing on Netanyahu. So he
I
likes
don't buy
having
this. I
Hamas.
don't buy
Oh,
this
I
because
do.
yeah, because we have better reasons to exist in a country. Of course, politicians use every opportunity that gets into their hands. There's no doubt in that, and even Netanyahu is good at it. But at the same time, when you were mentioning about Netanyahu handing over a golden pager to the U.S. president as something that is so bad, what do you think these Hamas officials handing over a certificate and garlanding them with some fancy items and parading them around, through a group of gun holding people
I don't know
and
what
all
you're
such
referring
things?
to.
Yeah, the hostage release, the kind of display that they showcase during this hostage release, hostage exchange.
Yeah, they're doing
So
it for eyeballs, right? It's all about the
yeah,
optics.
so where do you see the outrage that is outpoured in the public, in from the media, from the journalists? Don't you see a problem in that, the way they are doing this?
I've seen commentaries calling it out. It's not being totally ignored by the
it,
media.
it's
But I
it's
mean, but
not
I think
it's not it's not the way that we are expected to hear. That's not what we are seeing. It's
yeah.
just like something
Well,
that they are doing in a right way.
the release itself is taking priority in the news, not over the optics of how they're paraded around. But yeah, it is
Of
being called
course.
out.
So
Yeah.
so you focused on the idea, right? So why don't you give that privilege to Netanyahu when handing over the golden pager? Like it's a message. If you are the terrorists are dealing with the wrong people, wrong person. Israel is not a country which you can meddle with, especially with terrorism.
Yeah.
That's what he is
I'm
giving out the message so clear.
I'm sorry.
Mm.
He's mocking the innocents, and I
You
won't.
have to
You won't.
mock
Nothing you
terrorists.
say. Yeah, you can mock the terrorists, but he's mocking the innocents who were killed in collateral damage, and that I
No.
won't tolerate.
That's collateral damage. Of course, we have respect to them and the lives lost. That's always
I
we
I
see it
think you
that
give
in that way
Netanyahu too
itself.
much credit. I think
No,
you
no,
give
I,
him
I'm
too much credit for being a decent human being.
I give the credit for Netanyahu in eliminating those Hezbollah terrorists, in that giving them a reply that way, because it literally humiliated them, and it literally ripped off their confidence in coming up with a strong attack against Israel. That's what happened, and that's one reason why the northern areas of Israel is safe now. You can travel there, so that's a reason. So it's not easy to fight people, to fight terrorists like this. And I think at this point they are doing pretty good
Okay.
job in that. Yeah.
Can you at least agree that it was in bad taste for Netanyahu to do so publicly, to give a golden pager to Trump
Okay.
publicly?
Okay. Agree. Like he could have taken something, a message of peace instead of this page, or he could have taken an olive tree or something like that and given to the most powerful leader in the world, so that the whole world can form a new axis of peace where the all countries, all leaders who believe in real peace can come forward and unite or stand under this olive tree, and they can take out this message, especially to the Middle East, especially when Trump is in power, where uh, who is the mastermind behind this Abraham Accords. He has a lot of things to do. You can keep reminding him of the ideals behind that, like the peace in Middle East. It's not about war, or it's not about oil always. It's about the peace. It's about the business deals that's going to happen over there. That could be a better move. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Still, we have
I
to wait
think
and see how it shakes out. But I don't think Trump's plan has any potential to come to fruition. So just
the
briefly, you
the
mentioned earlier about the
potential,
river to the sea.
yeah, the potential of Trump's plan is to force the Middle East to come up with solutions. To
Yeah.
They have to take the initiatives at least now. That's what
So
I
one
see
of
in
the
this.
one of the comedians, just to end on a positive note or a funnier note, one of the comedian, I believe it was on the Daily Show, was talking
Mhm.
about Trump's Gaza plan, was they referred to it as from the Riviera to the sea. So
And this Hamas was in India speaking to the separatist organizations here, like the Hezbollah. Sorry, not Hezbollah. Hizbul Mujahideen. Then some other people like that. I don't remember these names because you have all the fancy names. And they were speaking to the leaders in Pak occupied Kashmir. And now the new slogan is Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Palestine will be free. That's the new slogan. So things are changing. Okay. So we have to be
uh,
careful. The domain
hope
of Palestine is increasing, the boundaries. So we have
Well,
to be careful.
hopefully the saner heads are going to prevail. As I said, we got to get religion off the table. The ultra right wing Israelis, the Islamic extremists, they've got to be taken off the board, and we
Mm,
need to let people like Amir and our economist sit down and hammer out a workable solution. Because as long as
definitely.
religion, we're AI, as long as religion keeps interfering, it's always going to be a flame war.
But we have a good news from UAE that they have already come up with a statement that they directly opposed Hamas. They asked them to step down as the ruling power in Gaza because they are literally calling out what in reality Hamas is. It's not no more a freedom fighter squad. They are literally causing more troubles to the Gazan people. So they have come up and called that way. So I hope more countries in the Middle East will come up, just like the Camp David, where Egypt and Jordan was a part of a peace treaty with Israel, and that's one occasion when these countries were abandoned or even facing a discrimination among the Arab countries because they were transgressors against the Arab cause. And what is the Arab cause? That is the Palestinian cause, and that's something like annihilation of a Jewish state. We cannot stand with that. So we speak about, or I speak against this because whenever there is a chance for a peace, who stood with that and who was standing against it? There's a history on that. So that's one reason why I always look at the moral high in that. So the moral ground matters at times, especially when dealing with a democratic country, elected country, and at the same time, on the other side, you have a terrorist outfit causing a lot of troubles, even using them as a human shield and other things. So it's not easy to compare both. Yep, I think we have less time now. Can we postpone the rest of the news for
Sure.
the next week?
No worries. Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
almost 45 minutes. So yeah, it
45
was
minutes.
good.
That was
Good chat.
fierce.
Animated. It was animated. But
Yep.
I am an unrepentant advocate for Palestinian human rights. I will never
Mm.
stop championing human rights. I'm not saying
Okay.
that the flip side of that is no Israel. That is not what I'm saying. I mean, Israel has a right to exist. The Israelis have a right to live in peace, but I will not stop advocating for Palestinian human rights and the abuses, the legion of abuses that the state of Israel has inflicted on the Palestinian people is unconscionable, as many Israeli journalists have pointed out. So,
Yeah. I at this point, I pray to the God who can listen will
Kali,
take this message, yeah, will take this message to the Hamas leadership and ask them to delete the portions in their charter which says that Islam will obliterate Israel, just like others obliterated it. Because when it is written in their charter, it's not possible to get a peace solution in the Middle East with this. So they
agreed.
should have a change of mind. So let's hope for the best. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
not
you.
hope. Let's actively work towards it,
Act.
and
Okay. Okay.
and take let's
That's a good
take
correction. Yeah.
let's take the bad players off the stage on both sides, like
Absolutely.
Smotrich. Like let's get saner heads in there who can, as Amir pointed out, like 70% of the population of Israel is secular. There's a huge secular
We have to
demographic
increase
there.
that. Keep
So
increasing that. That's the only hope we have.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you.
Thanks everybody. All
Yeah.
right. Take
Thanks
care,
for
everybody.
listening. Yeah.
Alrighty. Hope you
Leave your
enjoyed it.
comments. Yeah. Leave your
All right.
comments, your opinions, and let's keep this fight forward. Okay.
All right.
Fight for peace. Bye.
Yeah. See you, everybody. Bye bye.